much you can see here at the top of the Astoria column in Astoria, Oregon, birthplace of the modern Northwest, the mouth of the Columbia River, the Pacific Ocean, the state of Washington, and one of the most historic towns in America. I'm Susan Hunt, and this is America, coast to coast. The Astoria column commemorates Astoria's rich history. In 1805, Lewis and Clark became the first white men to come here. At the order of President Thomas Jefferson, they journeyed all the way from St. Louis to the mouth of the Columbia River. In 1811, Astoria was founded, the first permanent American settlement west of the Rockies. It was originally a fur trading post financed by the legendary New York millionaire John Jacob Astor. Ironically, Astor never came here, and he later sold the business. But Astoria prospered, the first foothold in a region that would give birth to America's Northwest. It's called the Emerald City, complete with evergreen forests, snow-capped mountains, and sparkling waters. And with this majestic beauty, it must be Seattle, Washington. Seattle has been burdened with an unfortunate and inaccurate reputation for bad weather, particularly rain. The combination of a maritime climate provided by the Pacific Ocean and the crisp Olympic Mountains actually creates pleasing year-round conditions. The thermometer rarely passes 80 degrees in the summer months, yet during the winter season, Seattle rarely succumbs to freezing temperatures. There are a lot of overcast days, but the yearly rainfall is a reasonable 36 inches. Seattle's slow growth changed in the summer of 1897, when a steamer, ironically christened the Portland, returned from the newly discovered Canadian Klondike goldfields. The ship docked on the Seattle waterfront and proceeded to unload 2 tons of solid gold. The population was quickly infected, and the Klondike Gold Rush was on. Like the California Gold Rush before it, the Klondike Gold Rush was a short-term affair. However, the long-term results of population growth, and most importantly, the interlinking of the city with the rest of the country, have produced the city that exists today. The citizens of Seattle are aware of the important role the Gold Rush played in the development of their city. The Klondike Gold Rush Historic Park captures this time period with old photographs, clothing, and mining gear from the era.
Or October. And the mining was done during...
But Seattle's history has also been preserved in the Pioneer Square Historic District. Stone archways, cobblestones, and Italian marble can be found throughout the neighborhood. Its popularity continues with the city's many visitors. The market at Pike Place is another landmark, always filled with excitement and large crowds. It is a unique spot that enjoys the rare privilege of critical acclaim from both tourists and locals. It is the oldest continuously operated farmers market in the nation. Spanning over 6 blocks, the cultural diversity you'll find here is unmatched in the city. And produce is not the only commodity sold. Fresh fish and flowers are complemented by artwork and jewelry made by the area's talented artisans. In 1962, Seattle hosted the World's Fair, entitled Century 21. The 74-acre Seattle Center remains one of the focal points of the city. Many of the original fair buildings now house civic and cultural events. Ewing Dingwald was the director of the 1962 fair. He speaks of the fair's continuing legacy.
Right at the very root of it, we made a decision that the capital investment should be planned for permanent use, and that we would use it in 1962 to put on a fair. Now, that is a radically different decision than New York or other expositions generally have made, where they try to finance the entire thing, including the construction and demolition of buildings, out of the income that they receive from admissions. There's just no way you can do that. So we made the original, this investment came from bond issues that the people voted for, from state appropriations, that kind of money. And it was all put into permanent capital investment. And only the operating costs of the 1962 event were charged against the income of the event.
The Fun Forest amusement at the fair site helps to maintain the energy of the original fair. The Seattle Center is home to the Emerald City's most visible landmark and the theme structure of the World's Fair, the Space Needle. Stretching 605 feet into the air, the framework casts a futuristic image over the city. An observation deck at the 520-foot level was designed to give visitors a panoramic view of the city and is complemented by 2 restaurants that revolve a full 360 degrees each hour. The World's Fair was not the only major project Seattle undertook in 1962. That year also marked the birth of the Tilikum Indian Village. Situated on Blake Island, just 8 miles from downtown in the middle of Puget Sound, Tilikum Village State Park offers visitors a one-of-a-kind tour. The journey begins on the Seattle Harbor Tours dock. An enjoyable boat ride traverses the sapphire waters of the Sound. Upon arrival, guests are served hot, steaming clams and nectar. Appetizers can be enjoyed on the front lawn or in the huge cedar longhouse. Inside the lobby, salmon bakes over alder wood fires. The freshly cooked salmon is accompanied by a full buffet. After the meal, interpretive Northwest Coast Indian dances entertain visitors and shed light on the native dance culture. A tribesman explains the different dances.
The first dance we'd like to share is an eagle dancer coming out to spread the eagle down. And this is a symbol of purification of the ground where the dancers will perform on later. And the eagle dancer is a very high status dancer, which is often seen at potlatch and other dancing. And we have a beautiful eagle headdress on our dancer, which is in the quacudal style. And the eagle down is thrown out at certain parts of the dance when you hear the oohing sound, which is the sound of the eagle swooping down against the earth. The blanket dance is a way to show off a crest or coat of arms which high-ranking families in the Northwest tribes have. This is a design which is part of the totem tradition. Totem poles were a family coat of arms as well. Well, our third dance will be a Thunderbird dance, and Thunderbird dances are found amongst most Northwest Coast tribes. A Thunderbird is a very large mythological bird with such a huge wingspan. It makes a thundering sound with its wings. And this dance will use a very interesting headdress, distinguishable from eagle because Thunderbird headdresses have 2 crests or horns out of the top. And this powerful bird is the symbol of chiefmanship and power and the ability to be a great warrior. Our fourth dance is to represent 4 man-eater birds. In the old stories, these giant man-eater birds were helpers of a terrible cannibal who seemed to have an appetite for villagers. And these birds were his helpers. They would swoop down villages and pick up innocent victims in their mouths.
The fresh waters of Lake Washington and Lake Union, coupled with the salt waters of Puget Sound, promise the Emerald City plenty of great boating spots. And Seattle's love affair with boats is seen everywhere. During the mild summer season, both local residents and visitors to the area ply the waters with boats of all sizes, makes, and styles. The Center for Wooden Boats has an impressive collection of vessels. Boats from all over the world dock here. Some on display are over 100 years old. The wooden boats vary in size, structure, and purpose, but the vast majority of wooden recreation boats were built in the late 20s and 30s. Some of these diminutive vessels were excellent for racing. Others were used for hunting, fishing, exploring, and even rum running. In 1916, William Boeing and Clyde Esterveld established what is now Seattle's largest corporate citizen, Boeing Aircraft. Over the years, Boeing has built more jet airliners than any other company, and so it's only appropriate that Seattle be home to the Museum of Flight. The museum chronicles the history of aviation, from the first flight up to the current space programs. It's located in the original Boeing airplane factory, or as former employees called it, the Red Barn. Director Howard Lovering gives us a tour.
Property that we're on is the site of the very first flight in 1910. That was a Curtiss flying machine, a typical barnstormer and all that, and thousands of people came out, most of whom, according to the newspaper accounts of the day, didn't believe there was such a thing. It's just like Apollo. They believed this was a stunt that people like you were putting on. But that started it all, so we wanted to get some of those early airplanes. And then we start with the Wright glider that we have a replica, move through the very early aircraft, the early aircraft engines, this area and around the United States and the world, and then all the way to the Apollo program and even the modern space program. I think the airplane in the great gallery, believe it or not, that is the most popular with the general public is the Aero car. Our own Moult Taylor from Longview, Washington, a resident 80-year-old genius, as a very young man, decided the way to solve all this congestion on the highways, you know, in the 30s and 40s, was to come up with an aircraft that actually was a car that trailered its wings behind it, and when you got in congestion, you just flapped open those wings and took off.
Though the sun may not always come out in Seattle, the city literally shines with its many cultural and recreational offerings. Welcome back to Astoria and the mouth of the Columbia River. For a ship, one of the most dangerous places in the world. Here, waves can reach 50 feet high. Well, this is the wreck of the Peter Iredale, a four-masted iron-hulled bark that went down in 1906. One of the reasons this place is known as the graveyard of the Pacific. Well, up next, the fearless captain who made his fortune braving the Columbia's stormy seas.
At Red Lobster, it's going, and soon to be gone. Our full pound of shrimp special ends soon. Red Lobster knows you just can't get, enough shrimp. 10 grilled shrimp, 15 butterfly, 11 scampi. A full pound of our biggest and best shrimp. For a limited time, enjoy all this shrimp. There's so much, you may need a doggy bag.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
What bottled water are more people drinking?
Mountain Valley Spring Water. Mountain Valley Spring Water.
When it comes to pure, clean, refreshing taste, the Oz have it. Choose Mountain Valley Spring Water and enjoy.
Mountain Valley Spring Water. Mountain Valley Spring Water.
If your family likes its fun together, you'll find fun you can really get into on the Family Channel. Like Big Brother Jake, who battles a house full of foster kids. Or Maniac Mansion, home of TV's most unusual family. Or That's My Dog, TV's most unusual game show. It's for everyone who relates to the positive side of life in every show on the Family Channel.
Accentuate the positive, the Family Channel, yes indeed.
We are different.
As women.
And men.
Different in our bodies.
And our brains.
Different in our perceptions of what we see.
And how we see it.
Chemical and physical differences.
Molding our brains as male.
Or female.
Shaping the way we behave, love, and learn.
But as we understand the diversity of our minds...
Can this knowledge bring us together?
And help us recognize the miracle of brain sex.
Tuesdays at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
Okay, question. Beverly Hills, the most beautiful women in the world, plastic surgery. What do these three things have in common? Me in less than a week.
Ben Stone was a city doctor with big city plans. But he never planned on the town of Grady.
I'm just on my way to Beverly Hills. Plastic surgery. Not that you need any.
Doctors know more about sex than normal people.
My foot feels so good, I brought you this peg.
I'm in the Twilight Zone.
Michael J. Fox is Doc Hollywood.
Garth Brooks, Patty Loveless, The Smothers Brothers, Kenny Rogers, Alan Jackson, Emmylou Harris, Diamond Rio, Wayne Newton, Vince Gill, Trisha Yearwood, Sawyer Brown, Vern Gosdin, Billy Ray Cyrus, Clint Black, Brooks and Dunn, Travis Tritt. You want 'em, you got 'em. The biggest names in entertainment. 90 Big Minute weeknights on Nashville Now. 9, 8 Central on TNN.
And now, back to America, coast to coast. The streets of Astoria's historic district are lined with dozens of ornate Victorian homes. But by far the most impressive is the Flavel House, built in 1885. Its owner was Captain George Flavel, the area's first licensed bar pilot. He and his men did an essential and dangerous job, guiding huge ships through the treacherous waters at the head of the Columbia River. People complained that he charged too much, but Flavel was a shrewd businessman. He reputedly became the area's first millionaire, and his home is certainly a testament to the Victorian age of self-made men, the kind of men who, a ways up the Columbia River, created the state of Oregon's greatest city. Seated in the fertile delta between the Columbia and Willamette Rivers, Portland, Oregon is generally regarded as one of the nation's most beautiful cities. Clear air, breathtaking scenery, parks, and a remarkable quality of life convinced the Environmental Protection Agency to name Portland the #1 city for quality of life in 1987. To many, it's the heart of the Pacific Northwest and is one of America's most impressive cities. Since its birth in 1632, Portland has experienced consistent population growth, enabling the city to make a smooth transition from what was once a diminutive frontier town into what is now a major metropolis. Although this expansion is uncommon for most of the Pacific Northwest's towns and cities, in Portland's case, its growth can be attributed to careful city planning, a productive timber industry, and its ideal geographic location. The area is generally regarded as one of the most beautiful regions in the country. Beginning at the Washington-Canadian border, extending southward through Oregon and into Northern California, the majestic wilderness of the Pacific Northwest manifests itself in many diverse ways. Hundreds of national and state parks protect the Pacific Northwest's assorted natural treasures. Snow-capped mountains, lush forests, crystal clear lakes, deep river gorges, and spectacular waterfalls. Their unmarred surroundings beckon visitors each year. Portland provides all the amenities of a big city with seemingly unlimited outdoor recreation opportunities. Both city and wilderness remain unscathed by pollution. Over 160 parks in the Portland area showcase the city's commitment to the environment. Possibly the most beloved park in the city is Washington Park. The International Rose Test Garden, established in 1917, has 10,000 rose bushes representing over 400 varieties. The roses are planted in 3 terraces overlooking the city. So naturally, Portland is often called the City of Roses. The city's favorite flower is honored each year in a 26-day rose festival, concluding with a spectacular grand floral parade. Washington Park's Japanese gardens have likewise won international praise for their authenticity. The Strolling Pond Garden contains waterfalls, pools, and stone channels. In all, there are 5 different traditional gardens. The zoo at Washington Park has made a name for itself by effectively breeding endangered species in captivity. Its work with the Asian elephant has been cited nationally. The zoo's exhibits are diverse, with the Peruvian Humboldt penguins, African zebras, Alaskan tundra animals, and giraffes. The World Forestry Center is adjacent to the zoo. This educational park is dedicated to preserving the history of one of Portland's founding industries, timber. According to the center's director, John Blackwell, the timber industry has undergone a lot of changes over the years.
The production of trees for commodities, for lumber and plywood, have always been terribly important to Oregon and to Oregonians. Increasingly, we're finding that Oregonians also value some of those other commodities from the forest, like good water, good air, good recreational experiences, good outdoor experiences. We're finding that Oregonians are able to get more products from fewer trees. Increasingly, even in our lumber products, you're seeing recycling. That is, waste woods being shipped and put into reconstituted kinds of forest products.
The Forestry Center provides visitors with a hands-on opportunity to not only understand the history of the lumber industry, but also the economic and environmental impacts this important segment of the Northwest economy provides. Another Portland attraction is the Pioneer Courthouse Square. This brick and columned urban area is a gathering place for Portlanders to do business or just relax and enjoy the city. East of the square is the Pioneer Courthouse. Built in 1870, it is Portland's oldest building. Not far from the courthouse is the Portland Building. Designed by postmodern architect Michael Graves, this provocative structure has received mixed reviews amongst locals. Oregonians cherish their provincial wilderness. A popular saying declares that in Oregon, it's the people that are spoiled, not the places. The Columbia Gorge is one reason locals should feel spoiled. A geological masterpiece of towering waterfalls, volcanic cliffs, unusual rock formations, and stone walls. The gorge was primarily formed by glacier runoff from the Clark Fork River in northern Idaho. The hallmark of the Columbia Gorge is the confusing nature of the Columbia River. Instead of flowing down and around the massive mountains the way most rivers would, the Columbia River chose to cut through them. The collision of continental and oceanic plates increased the elevation of the Cascades peaks. The relatively young, powerful river continued to fight the change and bore through the rising terrain. The aftermath of this struggle produced a sea level channel to the Pacific in the middle of the Cascade Mountains. In 1805, Lewis and Clark became the first men to travel down the Columbia River. Almost 2 centuries have transpired, and the territory has changed considerably. Dams have eliminated most of the powerful rapids, but the pioneering duo wrote were the roughest they encountered on the continent. But now the calmer conditions allow stern-wheelers to retrace the historic voyage. On clear days, comfortable cruises on a stern-wheeler provide panoramic views of the area's breathtaking beauty. The gorge also has a reputation for high winds, a delight to windsurfers who flock from all directions to sail and soar. The high winds are drawn from the cool breeze of the Pacific and the hot air of the inland desert, providing optimum sporting conditions. Windsurfers at the river can challenge huge waves. They form as strong upstream winds battle downstream currents. The waves and winds have made the gorge the most exalted windsurfing center in the continental United States. Rising 11,235 feet in the air, Mount Hood is Oregon's tallest mountain. Snow cover is constant, allowing Mount Hood the rare distinction of year-round skiing. Both the U.S. and Canadian Olympic competitors train here in the summer months. Bill Connerly of the Timberline Lodge says Mount Hood is the ideal summer ski resort.
Well, we've got what you call a perpetual snowfield just about 2 miles above where we are standing today. And on a nightly basis, it continues to harden at night, soften during the day to make ideal conditions. And with that natural refrigeration system down deep, it stays cooler than you would normally consider with the air temperature being as warm as it is. But in 1978, we opened for skiing up there during the summer months. It's much too severe in the winter to operate the lift, but for the summertime, we do. We have probably anywhere from 40 to 50,000 skiers in just the summer months up there.
Throughout the entire community, Portland provides visitors with a never-ending experience of natural beauty combined with convenient and enjoyable urban amenities. Welcome back to Astoria, Oregon, and the Columbia River Maritime Museum, one of the best of its kind anywhere in the country. It has everything, from Indian dugout canoes to relics of wrecked sailing ships to a real-life working lightship, a floating lighthouse that at one point guarded the harbor. Well, up next on the show, we'll explain why Astoria was once known as the baddest town around. Stay with us.
This portion of Discovery is sponsored in part by Mountain Valley Spring Water. What bottled water are more people drinking?
Mountain Valley Spring Water. Mountain Valley Spring Water.
When it comes to pure, clean, refreshing taste, the Oz have it. Choose Mountain Valley Spring Water and enjoy.
Mountain Valley Spring Water. Mountain Valley Spring Water.
What is Vibrance? Vibrance is your hair full of life. Vibrance is new shampoos and new conditioners. Vibrance infuses each strand with a healthier life, with deeper shine, livelier color, and a fullness you've always wanted. When your hair's this full of life, it's new Vibrance.
A better way to catch your Z's is on Sealy's Posturepedic Sleep System. Designed to conform to your shape, distribute your weight evenly, comfortably. Only Sealy Posturepedic has it. So for a better night's sleep, better sleep on a Sealy.
Say you're a countertop. Which would you rather be cleaned with? Soft scrub cleanser with Clorox bleach, which cleans tough stains without harsh scratching, or the kind of powder that's harsh? Wise choice. Soft scrub with bleach, preferred by countertops everywhere.
You were here. He has the traveler's checks here. That is the problem. Well, was. Now there's American Express traveler's checks for 2. The first checks either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
Hi.
Buy it.
Hey, cut it out.
Excellent.
Look, I know you're watching the Discovery Channel right now, but you don't know what's coming on next. So you're flipping channels. You're looking through the paper. You're trying to find out what's on the Discovery Channel. I know this because I used to do it, too. Then I found out about this. This is the Discovery Channel's magazine. It's a program guide, plus great articles on adventure, science, history, nature, people. Great photography, award-winning writers, complete hour-by-hour program listings, and descriptions of all my favorite Discovery Channel shows. So now I finally have a way to plan what I'm going to watch. So what are you going to do? You're going to sit there just flipping around, missing out? Or maybe subscribe to the only magazine that tells you what's on the Discovery Channel right now.
Call 1-800-832-8343 to order Destination Discovery, and you'll receive 12 monthly issues for only $14.95. That's more than 50% off the cover price.
Hey, what are you waiting for?
And now, back to America, coast to coast. Welcome back to the Columbia River Maritime Museum, and I'm joined by its curator, Ann Whitty. Well, of course, Ann, we know now Astoria is a very respectable town, but I understand that at one point it had a rather unsavory past.
It did. Astoria was a major seafaring port, of course, in the 19th century, and at one time it became very hard to get men to work the ships. So anytime a man would jump ship or decide he was sick and wanted to go home, he needed to have a replacement. A practice arose called Shanghaiing, whereby a man called a crimp would go around the boarding houses and waterfront bars and obtain sailors for the ships, usually by slipping a Mickey Finn into their drinks and, when they were unconscious, lowering them through a conveniently placed trapdoor into a waiting skiff. I should probably explain that Astoria was built on pilings at that time, and you could row underneath the sidewalks out to a waiting ship. By the time the poor guy awoke, he was probably outward bound around Cape Horn on a long and hard sailing ship journey.
Tell me, what could a crimp get for a sailor back then?
In the days when sailors were really hard to get, he might get as much as $100 or $150 for his dirty work. I've heard tell that a local boarding house mistress even sold off her husband to a crimp.
Well, there's an idea for you. You know, Astoria is not the only rough town around. If you go up the river, there is another town that also has a questionable past. In 1849, the first gold rush of the Pacific Northwest hit in California. The massive influx of new settlers into the relatively uninhabited territory spawned overnight communities along the northern California coast. In the beginning, the lucrative bounty of untapped gold brought wishful prospectors in search of treasure. Although the gold rush increased population and commerce of established towns and cities, it also created new communities. Trinidad was one of these first towns. Located due north of Eureka, this peaceful village was formed under turbulent conditions. The gold seekers who first settled here were often penniless and unlawful. Whatever riches they could procure were often squandered or stolen. The male-dominated populations of these overnight gold towns did their best to cast a Wild West image. Prospectors in Northern California were drawn to Trinidad because of its wide and easily accessible harbor. But over the years, this serene harbor has witnessed a great deal of change. Today, the fishing boats that once leisurely traveled through the bay now vividly depict the economic transformation which has occurred here. In the 1850s, merchant ships continuously darted in and out of Trinidad's bustling harbor, turning the fledgling town into one of the centers for Northern California gold rush commerce. It was at these very docks that many wishful prospectors who did strike it rich shipped their fortunes out of Trinidad's harbor to San Francisco, about 250 miles south of here. Known for its busy commercial port and efficient railroad system, Trinidad is also one of the nation's timber capitals. The coastal redwoods of Northern California are the world's tallest living things. Trees in the region have surpassed heights of 350 feet. The tremendous quantity of wood from one of these giants could supply enough wood to build between 25 and 30 homes. The never-ending demand to ferret out the tallest tree puts a strain on the Humboldt State Park rangers. The arduous task of measuring objects that are often taller than the Statue of Liberty is handled by different methods. State Park Ranger Ron Jones explains.
Well, there's various instruments that they use, but probably the one that was most unique that I've heard about was we had a couple of individuals that took a large helium balloon, put a string on it, and ran the balloon straight up beside the tree that they were measuring, which happened to be the Dyerville giant. And they ran it all the way up to the top and set somebody up on a mountain not too far away with a radio and a spotting scope. And as soon as that balloon got up to the very top, the person would radio over and say, okay, it's right at the top, and then they would try to measure it. However, what they found out was it had a bow in the string because it was going up so far. So then they had to try to figure out how much of a bow was in there so they could get an exact measurement. It's real hard to get an exact measurement on any of these trees out here. This is the Dyerville giant. It's the champion redwood tree of the world. Unfortunately, it fell on March 24th, 1991. The tree right behind us here fell first a week beforehand, and then it caused this tree to lean, and this tree a week later started leaning and fell and knocked the Dyerville giant down.
The California redwoods possess many attributes that differentiate them from other trees. Their height is the most noticeable, and the redwoods are unique in that they are perpetually growing throughout their lifetime. Virtually impervious to disease or flooding, the trees can continue to flourish even when major portions of the tree are dead. And their durable bark also makes them impenetrable to fire. All of these qualities allow the redwoods to live for hundreds of years. The spiral rings in the tree's trunk indicate the tree's age. The longest recorded redwood lifespan is 2,200 years. According to visitors, it's a humbling experience to visit this towering forest. Many environmentalists believe that the redwood forest, representing the United States temperate rainforest, will also become threatened due to pollutants carried from the urban centers far south from here, and urge that measures to protect them be adopted now. The bountiful redwood and Douglas fir trees, indigenous to Northern California, provide more than scenic beauty. They're also a vital cog in one of the Northwest's largest industries, lumbering. One of the last genuine working towns in America rests quietly in the shadows of the Behemoth Lumber Mill. The town of Scotia was built shortly after the Pacific Lumber Company in 1869 and relies completely upon it for its economy. Virtually everyone who lives here works in the mill or has a family member who does. The quaint community is equipped with an elementary school, 2 churches, a fire department, and a few stores. Scotia not only provides necessities, this company town even has its own recreational facilities for the kids growing up in the area. In recent years, lumber companies have had to struggle with a negative public image. The grievances many citizens have for the industry are related to environmental destruction and wastefulness. John Campbell, the president of the Pacific Lumber Company, tells us the steps this company now takes to address the problem.
Really a serious misconception. We're in the business of growing trees, and for every tree that we harvest, we plant 5 more. And when we do harvest trees, we get full utilization from every stem. We use the leaves and the bark, the sawdust, and we make products for families. California is the most regulated forest practice industry in the nation, if not the world. All of our foresters have to be licensed by the state, just like a doctor or an attorney. And if they have malpractice in the woods, they can lose their license and the company can be seriously fined. After the tree's harvested in the woods, they load it onto trucks, and then they bring it into the plant, and we place it into the pond for inventory and fire protection. And then when it comes time to process that particular tree, they take it through our debarker. We have a hydraulic debarker, which intense water pressure removes the bark from the tree. Then it's passed on through a series of saws to cut it into segments. And once the log enters the sawmill, what we're trying to do fundamentally is take a circular piece of material and cut it up into a series of rectangles. And we make 2x4s, 2x6s, and all of the other various products that are required in the marketplace. And then within each individual piece, you'll have a variation in color. Each tree is somewhat unique and has different color. But after the lumber comes out of the sawmill, it goes onto a green chain. And the people have trained people there who look at the lumber and grade it into different segments and into different dimensions. They take into account the amount of moisture in the piece, the size of the knots, and other defects that may have occurred during the growth of the tree. Then it's sorted out, and then it goes into an air drying process where it sits out for up to 2 years. And then during the process, when we're making the lumber, you have boards that break apart between the knots. You have pieces may get trimmed off the end of it, a longer piece. And as part of our full utilization program, we take these smaller pieces and we add a joint in the middle, and we add glue along this part right here, and then they go together in a machine. Then it passes through what we call a radio frequency tunnel, and it has a sensor in there, and that senses the moisture in the glue. And then an electrical charge passes through the board, that ignites the catalyst, and then the board sets up solid, and that's as dry as it'll ever be, and it remains solid, and it's just as strong.
The lumber industry's modern practices provide hope to the area's many residents that economic and environmental concerns can peacefully coexist. An hour and a half from Portland and only a few miles from Astoria is Fort Clatsop. It's the first outpost built by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark and is an exact replica of the original fort. The National Park Service has turned it into a living museum. Good shot. Well, next up, the unusual customs of the Clatsop Indians. Stay with us.
It makes us different.
In our bodies
And our brains.
shaping our behavior
Perception.
and desires.
Examine the undeniable differences of brain sex.
Tuesdays at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. The world's most comfortable mattress would be one you couldn't feel at all. That's the idea behind Sealy's Posturepedic sleep system, designed to support everyone differently, to conform to every curve, distribute your weight evenly. Only Sealy Posturepedic has it, and for a more comfortable night's sleep, there's nothing like it.
Growing Up Together is brought to you by Clorox.
We all want our children to have a lifetime love of reading. Tips on encouraging that, next.
They say this detergent with bleach built in gets clothes really clean, but I wondered how it compared to my Clorox bleach. So I got 2 stained shirts, and I washed this one in detergent with bleach built in, and this one in Clorox bleach and my regular detergent. And look, the shirt washed in Clorox bleach is cleaner. I think I'll stay with Clorox bleach. Clorox liquid bleach. Still no better way to get clothes clean.
That's your cousin? One way your child will begin to enjoy reading is to make a book like this one. EJ is drawing pictures of his friends and family, and he's telling me about them, so I'm writing it down. Making a book together is a wonderful way to learn what your child's thinking and share all the joy reading can bring.
Tales of nature, capturing wildlife at its most wild, exploring its diversity, and showing how animals interact with each other and with us. It's an all-new season this fall, only on the Discovery Channel.
There are a lot of smart reasons to apply for the American Express card. Just call us at 1-800-THE-CARD.
And then a canceled flight won't leave you stranded.
I can't believe they canceled our flight.
It'll be fine. This is a great day. It's a beautiful drive.
Because unlike a bank card, the American Express card has no preset spending limit.
You can apply right over the phone.
With the American Express card, you're in control. You pay your bill in full. There's no revolving debt, no outrageous interest. You stay out of that trap.
So call 1-800-THE-CARD. You can apply right over the phone.
I still don't know where I lost that wallet. My whole life was in it. Pictures, license.
So we're on bread and water?
Oh, no. New card.
If you ever lose the card or it's stolen, you can get a replacement in 24 hours.
Don't delay. Call 1-800-THE-CARD and apply now.
And now, back to America, coast to coast. Welcome back to Fort Clatsop in Astoria, where it's always the winter of 1805 and 1806. Lewis and Clark's men are preparing for the trip home, but they're also studying the flora and fauna of the West, the natives, and their artifacts, tasks assigned them by President Jefferson. Lewis reports in his journal.
The most remarkable trait in their physiognomy is a peculiar flatness and width of forehead, which they artificially obtain by compressing the head between 2 boards while in a state of infancy, and from which it never afterwards perfectly recovers. This is a custom among all the nations we have met with west of the Rocky Mountains. This is done in order to give a greater width to the forehead, which they much admire. From this peculiar form of the head, the nations east of the Rocky Mountains call all the nations on this side, except the Snake Indians, by the generic name of flatheads.
Lewis and Clark stopped here near Astoria, but had they ventured further south, they would have been well rewarded. They would have encountered some of the most remarkable living things on the planet. The city of Eureka has preserved its turn-of-the-century Victorian homes. They beautify the town as they fill the streets with their gingerbread magnificence. For many, an appreciation of the unique architecture of the area begins with a stay at one of the area's quaint inns. Most are surprised at the consistent character and appearance of the area homes, ranging from quaint to magnificent. The area is generally regarded as one of the finest collections of perfectly preserved Victorian architecture in the nation. For most visitors to the area, the Carson Mansion best embraces the beauty of Victorian architecture. The mansion's size and beauty dominates the community. Resident Jill McDonald explains the different styles of architecture used in Eureka.
Lots of spindle work, lots of cut work that was done in the mill. Basically anything anyone wanted to put on a building or anywhere else, they glued on to these houses. And because of it, they do look like a bit gingerbread, and I think that's a term that's a lot of times associated with the houses.
I think when people think about Victorian architecture, they think about a lot of clutter, and I think that that's really appropriate. And on this house, you definitely have a lot of clutter. You have lots of layers, lots of turrets and spindles and fretwork and gables and lots of different styles converging here, all in one building. We haven't recreated any historic neighborhoods. You can walk through almost all of our neighborhoods, and they look the way they did 100 years ago. It started in America. It is really the first architecture that we as Americans can call our own. Architects who designed Victorians, they take a certain theme, such as the Moorish arch that you see over the door, and then that you see on the second floor, and then again on over the windows. They'd take a theme like that and they'd expand on it throughout the whole house, like we see here.
The Pink Lady was also built by influential businessman William Carson for his son as a wedding present, and it's considered one of the finest examples of Victorian architecture in the world. The neighboring village of Ferndale is a state historic landmark. This small community is home to the Butterfat Palaces. The palaces are Victorian structures named after the Danish and Portuguese dairymen who first settled here. Northern California's Humboldt County runs for 110 miles along the Pacific Ocean. Here, visitors find intermittent sandy vistas among the coastline rocks. The ocean surf battering the rocks and cliffs is a spectacular sight. Many believe the diverse beauty found in Humboldt County to be among the nation's most beautiful. Its coastline is generally regarded as one of the most dramatic and unspoiled in all of America. The waters of the Pacific Northwest are best known, however, for salmon and steelhead trout. To visitors, these tasty fish represent another lure to the area. To locals, they represent an important part of the Northern California economy. But regardless of purpose, anglers attracted to the area's bountiful waters come from all over North America to test their skills in reeling in record-size catch. The local Fish and Wildlife Commission granted over 2 million licenses last year. On land, massive elk thrive in this undisturbed environment. Seagulls perch on the rocky cliffs. And egrets fill the morning sky. The local sea otters aren't afraid to loiter near the sea piers. Enchanted tourists find the animals outgoing and friendly. The environment in Northern California is similar to that found elsewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Mountains, rich forests, flowing rivers, waterfalls, and clean air provide an outdoor paradise. For those who seek a unique and somewhat unusual vacation, a truly restful one, and the opportunity to really get close to nature, the Pacific Northwest is the ideal vacation destination, offering an experience unlike any to be found in the United States. It's a place where picturesque fishing villages and quaint towns are nestled among some of the nation's most spectacular vistas. From its crashing coastlines to the still, cool lakes and streams brimming with fish, the diverse beauty of the area has made this once quiet land into a growing attraction for visitors in recent years. The mighty forests have year-round appeal, especially to the many environmentally sensitive who've moved here from the urban centers to the south. The beauty of America's Pacific Northwest. It's an attraction for those who come to visit for a day, a week, or a lifetime. We're back up the coast in Astoria, Oregon at Fort Clatsop, where we're getting a lesson in candle making. Back in Lewis and Clark's day, they used to render deer and elk fat in large cauldrons like these. Then they'd pour it into molds for the finished product, which, by the way, smells a lot like hamburger. Well, coming up, the day World War II came to Astoria.
Brought to you in part by Red Lobster, for the seafood lover in you.
At Red Lobster, it's going, and soon to be gone. Our full pound of shrimp special ends soon. Red Lobster knows you just can't get, enough shrimp. 10 grilled shrimp, 15 butterflies, 11 scampi. A full pound of our biggest and best shrimp. For a limited time, enjoy all this shrimp. There's so much, you may need a doggy bag.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
Most families have two dishwashers. The heavy-duty model pre-washes everything, loads it in the other model, then tackles what didn't fit. But why? With the new Maytag Jet Clean dishwasher, you don't need to wash all your dishes before you wash your dishes. It has a 6-tier racking system that exposes everything to the cleaning power of 43 powerful jets, making your second dishwasher somewhat unnecessary.
You'll get used to it.
Maytag, the dependability people.
If your family likes its fun together, you'll find fun you can really get into on the Family Channel. Like Big Brother Jake, who battles a house full of foster kids. Or Maniac Mansion, home of TV's most unusual family. Or That's My Dog, TV's most unusual game show. It's for everyone who relates to the positive side of life in every show on the Family Channel.
Accentuate the positive, the Family Channel, yes indeed.
Selling a house is no vacation, but that's just what the Walkers got when they sold their house with our ERA office. The ERA Seller Security Plan guaranteed that if we didn't sell their house, ERA would buy it. ERA even agreed to take the risk of selling the house at a loss. But when we sold it for more, the Walkers got the profit. They used the extra money to take a vacation. The ERA Seller Security Plan, just the kind of help you'd expect from a friend. Call 1-800-ERA-SOLD. ERA, first in service.
On the next Discovery Sunday, meet the Hunters of the Sky, the hotshots of the United States Air Force, and Mother Nature's own Top Guns. First, fasten your seatbelts as host William Shatner pays tribute to our nation's airborne elite on Top Flight. And then at 10, witness the instinctive hunting prowess and amazing aerial skills of nature's winged predators on Birds of Prey. Sunday, beginning at 9 Eastern, only on Discovery Sunday.
Welcome back to the Pacific Northwest.
And America coast to coast.
Astoria's rich past has one remarkable footnote in the history books. Just a few miles from here is Fort Stevens, constructed over a century ago to help defend the Astoria region from potential invaders. Well, on June 21st, 1942, a Japanese submarine fired 17 shells at the fort, making it the only place on the continental United States to be attacked by a foreign power since the War of 1812. Well, the sub caused no damage and it got away, never to return. For the Discovery Channel, I'm Susan Hunt. Join us again when we take you America Coast to Coast.
Namibia's black rhino is on the verge of extinction. Can local tribesmen band together to protect these national treasures from poachers? Find out next on The Natural World.
It's an all-new season coming this fall, only on the Discovery Channel.
Evenings, I soak my dentures. Mornings, I brush. Then back to soaking.
Wait, all you need is denture cream. Why soak when denture cream gets dentures nearly twice as clean, with more than twice as much mint? All you need is denture cream.
Every time.
My best invention yet. 2,000 flushes chlorine clear tablet. Drop one in. It's the first chlorine tablet to help bleach away stains in your toilet up to 4 months automatically. 2,000 flushes chlorine clear tablet.
You were here. He has the traveler's checks here. Uh-oh. Well, now there's American Express traveler's checks for 2. The first checks either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
Say you're a countertop. Which would you rather be cleaned with? Soft scrub cleanser with Clorox bleach, which cleans tough stains without.